They threw the wounded alien woman at my feet. Use her as you wish, they laughed. But the stench of burnt ozone and scorched metal clung to the air as the transport ship's hull trembled under the shockwaves of the bombardment. I ducked behind a stack of crates, my pulse hammering in my ears, trying to make sense of the chaos. Explosions rocked the dock above, and through the haze, I saw them, guards in obsidian armor dragging their latest cargo toward me. My stomach twisted as they flung her at my feet. The alien woman hit the ground with a dull thud, limbs splayed unnaturally, her body glimmering faintly in shades of violet and cerulean. Her skin shimmered like fractured crystal, and her eyes, large and iridescent, blinked sluggishly, struggling to focus. Use her as you wish, one of the guards sneered, spitting onto the floor. She's yours now. Or not. They laughed, their boots clicking against the metal deck as they disappeared into the smoke. I knelt beside her cautiously, unsure whether to reach out or retreat. Her breathing was ragged, shallow, and the jagged streaks of blood along her torso told me she hadn't survived the landing or the fight unscathed. Yet there was a spark in her gaze, raw and defiant, that refused to be extinguished. Hey, can you hear me? I whispered, my hand hovering over hers, afraid to touch the crystalline skin. Slowly, she lifted a trembling finger and traced a shaky line in the dust at my feet. Symbols, alien and unfamiliar, but the intent was clear. She was asking for help. I ripped a piece of cloth from my jacket and pressed it to the wound. She hissed sharply, a sound like fractured glass, but did not pull away. That tiny act of trust shifted something in me, something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. I carried her to the back of the warehouse, where the shadows swallowed us from prying eyes. She murmured constantly, syllables foreign yet strangely musical, vibrating against the walls like a half-forgotten song. It was clear she couldn't walk on her own, so I fashioned a makeshift sling from rope and crates. Her weight was lighter than expected, almost ethereal, as if the air itself supported her fragile form. By the time we reached the abandoned maintenance bay, the first hints of her alien physiology began to manifest. Her wounds began to shimmer faintly, the crystal-like skin pulling together as if the body was knitting itself from light. I blinked. It was like watching frost melt in reverse, each inch of her body knitting itself whole. "Why aren't you dead?" I asked, voice hoarse, as she opened one eye and focused on me. She didn't speak, but a series of vibrating tones resonated from her throat. Somehow, I understood. Her species did not survive injury, they adapted. Pain was temporary. Survival was mandatory. As the hours passed, she gained strength, her limbs moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost unnatural. By nightfall, she could stand, though unsteadily, and her eyes held a new intensity, one that was no longer weak but calculated, aware. She scanned the warehouse, taking in the shadows, the broken crates, and me. Then she did something unexpected. She reached for my hand. Her grip was firm, deliberate, and shockingly warm. I flinched at the sensation, but she simply stared, her gaze imploring me to trust her. And I did. We spent the night in silence, her breathing slowly normalizing, my own heartbeat settling from panic to cautious curiosity. I learned she had a name, though it was impossible for my tongue to reproduce accurately. I settled for calling her Lira, a sound that seemed to comfort her. By dawn, the warehouse was still, the sounds of the city above muted. But I could feel eyes on us. Those guards wouldn't forget the alien woman they had discarded like trash. Lyra's head turned sharply, as if hearing my thoughts, and then she did something that froze me. She whispered, or rather vibrated, directly into my mind. "They will come. But I am not yours to destroy. Only yours to protect." Her words, a strange, electric hum in my skull, made my blood run cold. It wasn't a plea. It was a promise. Hours later, when the guards returned, thinking they had thrown away a broken creature, they found an empty warehouse. Only a faint shimmer lingered in the corner where the sun cut through the dust. And then Lira struck. She moved faster than sight, a blur of violet and cerulean, subduing the intruders without breaking a single bone. It was elegant, terrifying, absolute. When the last guard collapsed unconscious, I finally understood. The ones who had laughed, the ones who thought her powerless, were fools. I had been given a gift, a being of resilience, of unimaginable strength, and a mind unlike anything I had ever encountered. Lira turned to me, eyes glimmering, voice resonating in my head once more. I trusted you. You will live, because you chose differently. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Mercy could be stronger than violence, and courage stronger than fear. They had thrown her at my feet, expecting me to falter, to surrender to their cruelty. But they had underestimated one thing. They had underestimated the bond forged in the act of saving life. I smiled faintly, and Lira mirrored it. Together, we disappeared into the dawn, leaving the remnants of a world that had tried to break us behind. They had thrown the wounded at my feet. They had laughed. And yet, in the end, it was we who walked away undefeated. By dawn, the warehouse was silent, the chaos of the night replaced by an eerie calm. I felt it before I saw it, those guards, returning to check their discarded cargo. But Lira was no longer the wounded, helpless alien they had thrown at my feet. She moved like liquid light, her violet and cerulean skin shimmering with a power that defied reason. In seconds, they were disarmed, immobilized without a single bone broken. Their arrogant laughter had vanished, replaced by stunned fear. She turned her gaze to me, her eyes glowing softly, a silent question hanging between us. They thought I was powerless, her voice hummed directly in my mind. But I am not theirs. I am yours to protect, as you chose to protect me. I swallowed hard, the weight of those words pressing into me. They had thrown her at my feet, expecting me to falter, to surrender to cruelty. But by choosing compassion over fear, I had forged a bond stronger than any weapon. Lyra's shimmering form pulsed once, then she extended a hand. Her trust was absolute, unspoken, and terrifying in its intensity. I grasped it, and in that instant, I knew we were no longer prey. Together, we could face whatever world lay ahead. The guards lay unconscious, the warehouse still trembling from the echoes of her power. I looked at Lira, and for the first time, I saw not a victim, but a warrior, a being of resilience and light. We stepped into the breaking dawn, leaving behind the ruin and those who had underestimated us. They had laughed, thinking they held power. But it was we who walked away, undefeated, bound by courage, mercy, and a bond no one could break.